Markus, welcome to Firecast.
It's great to be here, guys. I'm really grateful.
Yeah.
Likewise. And I love you're always a person that comes from gratitude. And to me, that's such a telling sign of the person's character. And quite frankly, I'm a huge believer that people gravitate to those that are grateful.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and that's a choice.
Yeah. I actually think that gratitude was the very most important practice that I took on as a human being that immediately created joy in my life every day.
Tell us more about that practice. Like how are you specifically practicing gratitude?
Well, let me start by saying that personally that I believe I have a holistic approach to life, mind, body, and spirit. And so gratitude is immediately, if you start your day with gratitude, end your day with gratitude, you change your mindset immediately. So you go from, maybe wanting or thinking about what you want or what your goals are, as opposed to looking at what you have already that you're grateful for. I'm grateful to be here today. I'm grateful that it's a beautiful day. I'm grateful that, I have this honor of growing up and living in Los Angeles.
It's easy to be grateful when things are going well. How do you tap into gratitude when, something bad happens or
you're disappointed or things don't work out the way you'd like them to?
Everything's a lesson. Every day that I grow and I become more knowledgeable about the things that I'm passionate about, every day that I learn something new, it's a human experience. So as I become, as I grow, I become, let's just say, a fuller human being. And, we're living a duality life. I'd go as far as to say we chose to come here and live a duality life as opposed to singularity, So without knowing, love and knowing pain and without knowing the duality of everything, the experience isn't what it is. So you just get grateful for living a life that we're still here. Guys, we're right here.
I love it. Putting this into, of course, because it's a podcast about selling real estate. And are you able to tie the gratitude practice to business?
Very much, because I feel like there's two things. I mean, some realtors will not appreciate this conversation. One,
in that case, we need to have it.
One is, I think you need to own real estate to qualify to be a realtor. You need to know what it's like to be a buyer. You need to know what it's like to be a seller. You need to know the process inside and out as a expert. So ownership, I think, is a great qualifier for knowing real estate. So that's one thing. And the second thing is that, I wouldn't say it's our job, but I think it's our purpose to make a difference in what we do. And in real estate, from a holistic point of view, going back to where I started, if we don't do the work every day to make sure that mentally our mindset is super powerful, like Josh, I mean, seriously, I know you do it because I can see your being. If you're not doing that every day, then how can you, in a market when it gets challenging, truly take your client, elevate their lives, make powerful decisions if you're not in a mindset that is powerful? You should choose to be in a world of power by doing what you need to do to center yourself, to be in a state of being that is coming from love and compassion and looking on how you can be at service in the world. And we're in a service business. I meet agents who I resonate with that, and I also meet agents who have different ways of thinking. It's, for me, it's less about business, it's more about service.
Love it. And it's all about what I would call leadership, which is service, right? And how can you lead other people, first and foremost, your clients, if you're not confident, prepared, in gratitude, coming from contribution, listening, curious. These are the things that allow you to effectively lead others and earn their trust and earn their confidence. So let me ask you this, coming back to what Paul said, how was that, like, when did that become super conscientious for you within your career? Did it start that way? And when did that career start? Maybe that's a better way. When did that career start? And when did that gratitude mindset, that practice, that discipline, I like to say, come into place? Was that right at the outset, or when did that happen?
Well, luckily, it was all happening at the same time. I came from the film business, and I also came from the architectural design and build business. So my expertise was in telling stories and marketing. As an indie filmmaker, marketing was a big part of what I loved in what I did. And then from an architectural point of view, I love to create beautiful homes that, were people's dream homes. And so my interest has always been in this world of experiential spaces. I mean, that's what this office is with this view. That's what a great house does. You experience it. Amazing movies tell stories, but you experience them. And so I'm attracted to that. And so around the time that I went from those two worlds, of architecture and filmmaking, and went into real estate, I was making a choice to play a new game. I believe in striving to master the game of life. And so I pivoted into real estate, which was interesting because I never saw it coming. I never thought I would do real estate, firstly, because I typically choose things I felt that I'd be great at, all right? That was in alignment with what I thought I was, interested in. And it turned out that this business became a great expression of everything that I had learned up to that moment. And then to answer your question, I was at that time starting to practice gratitude.
When was that?
So I've been doing real estate for 19 years. I've been practicing gratitude for 19 years.
Nice. You made the career shift, and you said, wasn't necessarily something I thought I would be good at. How do you get from, new agent to being very good at it? And when you guys were talking about gratitude and everything, I fully agree with you. And for me, I view it as, you can all look at it as one cake, okay? But I look at it as icing on the cake. So I would say to a new realtor, like, memorize a neighborhood, go to every open house, know everything there is to know between, a farm area, between these blocks and that block, and figure that out. And gratitude and, that sort of thing, that comes after. Like learn the business. How do you get from nowhere to the great realtor that you are?
Look, gratitude is also part of law of attraction.
Yes.
All right. Sure. So you're not going to have business if you're not attracting it. Right, Josh?
Oh, you attract what you project, pure and simple.
So I would say, yes, you better be practicing gratitude right away because you need to be in a mindset that attracts. Mm-hmm. And when people are negative, and look at the market where there's a lot of confusion, there's a lack of confidence. These are not good words for real estate. Mm-hmm. When we bring the confidence, when we bring the positivity, when we, with our expertise, know that this is the opportunity right now, guys, run and buy real estate. Mm-hmm. This is the opportunity. Worst case scenario, the market goes down. Well, anything's possible, but the market continues or goes down a bit. Right now is the moment that in 5, 10 years from now, you'll be like, I'm so glad I bought because now I bought when people were hesitating. And we know, we've seen it, ever since 2018, everyone's like, oh, the market's going down. And it went up. The market's going down again. Nope, still kept going up.
You can't pick the top pick the top or the bottom.
Yes.
And when you
can't catch the knife.
You can't catch the knife, the falling knife. And when you go with the herd mentality, actually teaches you to do the opposite, which is that when real estate's doing great, everybody's talking about buying, which might be the time to sell. And when real estate is doing really bad, that's when everybody is running from real estate, and of course that's when you should think about buying. I mean, I don't really believe that. I believe that certainly with the stock market more than real estate, because I do think that it's always a good time to buy.
Well, look, all you have to do is look, especially in LA, if you look at the history of LA in the last 50 plus years, there's never been a greater than 2-year period where real estate has not appreciated. So if you're in it for anything beyond 2 years, then you're tipping the scales in your favor with respect to investing in real estate.
Another mathematical thing that I learned a lot later than I should have, because it's so obvious, is that if you're closer to the top of the market, and you're like, I'm going to wait, okay? And then what happens? You wait, and then the market appreciates some more. And then you wait, and the market appreciates some more, and some more, and then some more. And then it crashes. You're like, oh, I'm glad I didn't buy. But if really you would have bought then, it would have absorbed a lot of that, because the biggest sort of 2008, there might have been a 20% crash in one, it depends, varies by neighborhood, but at one particular time. And by the way, I did buy 1 second before the crash and still did fine over the long run. But unless you're the last person in, you're going to get a lot of that upward momentum before it comes down.
I think novice buyers wait. That's what
correct.
they do. It's because they're fearful
Yep.
and they don't know. But if, like you said, if you look at statistically all the years, you can see that real estate, especially in Los Angeles, appreciates and appreciates well. And when it's not, that's when you buy, because you're going to make up that appreciation in the future.
Right.
And we've seen that over and over again here.
Yep. So a couple comments I wanted to make per what you said about gratitude and, and what you said, you get good and then you become grateful. and my philosophy, which I know is very much in alignment with Markus, is, I don't care where you are in life, right? You find what you're looking for.
Correct.
You choose what that is. And every challenge, no matter what's going on around us, is nothing but an opportunity with that reframing and that right mindset and how you, and that energy that comes from that. And to your point, that's what clients, that's what other people are going to gravitate toward. And that's going to elevate everyone, yourself included. That's the beauty of it. Like life and business should not be a zero-sum game. Everyone can and should win. And when you're a leader and you lead by example like you do to create that, that's what, attracts tremendous opportunity. Now, again, whether you're brand new or whether you're the number one agent, on the planet.
And I do believe that also. I was being a little
of course.
oppositional just
Yeah,
because, we talked a lot about gratitude, and 25 years ago, I'm like, oh, the secret, and then finally I heard a Quaker saying, which brought the secret back around for me. And the Quaker saying was, pray but move your feet. Because I'm like, the secret, go sit on the couch and manifest, see what's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen.
You must have brought this up because you don't know that I actually made a movie that was in response to The Secret.
Wow.
As a director, my brother and I and another director, took on making a movie called Discover the Gift. And my brother and I actually came up with the idea of it. We had made a documentary that won many, many awards as a documentary, but it wasn't our passion project. It was a project that we were passionately making. And then we said, well, if we ever make another documentary, we're going to make something that's in our line of what matters. So we made a movie about helping people find their divine given gift, and pretty much the majority of the cast or the people who were in The Secret were in our film. And the reason that they all agreed unanimously to be in our film was because The Secret missed telling, let's just say it, the truth, which is the law of attraction is just one universal law. And if you only have one color to paint the rainbow, it's going to be red or blue or green. It's not going to be the rainbow. So we needed to tell a bigger story. At least that's what we started to do, is telling a bigger story of like, how do we manifest? How do we create? How do we generate? Like, how do we do all these things? It's just interesting that you bring that up. And it's, my passion right now is I've started writing a book. I've been a co-author on a book before, but right now I'm writing a book, which, I feel like it's just downloading. It's coming from somewhere. Outside of me, and I'm finally choosing to listen to something I think I wanted to do for a very long time, or I felt was part of my purpose. And it is definitely a self-help book.
So what's that other piece? Like I can tell you, I couldn't agree more. But
pieces?
Pieces. Sure. What are the key other pieces?
Look, I'm just going to give you an example of what it's not. I remember when I first got into the business. One of my open houses was on Detroit. It was a new construction townhouse, and this guy, an agent, I actually think he was with Keller Williams, kept coming into our open house, and then he came like 5 times. And eventually I sat down and I said, "What's the deal? Are you going to buy the house?" I mean, what? And he said, "Yeah, I'm just really imagining, this property and me living in it." And then it dawned on me, The Secret. He had watched The Secret, and he was sitting there imagining himself in this property. And yes, vision is very important in manifestation, but equally important is doing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say agency, personal responsibility, action.
And he didn't get it.
Yeah.
He hadn't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Maybe he did. Maybe he owns a property just like it, or maybe he's gone, but at that time, he hadn't awakened to those other pieces. I mean, look, if you're talking about like how do you become a powerful, successful real estate agent, the one thing that you guys know for a fact, it's hard work.
For sure.
It's first hard work. So yeah, gratitude, I would say walk through the door with gratitude, be prepared to work hard, harder than everybody else, longer than everybody else, and with a passion that's at service so that when you're talking to people, they get that you're there to help them, that you're at service to them, and that you're not in it for the money, which is what, look, people need to get paid, and you can't be in this business. I certainly couldn't be in this business if I was going negative all the time. Right?
Yeah.
I got to be making, I need to be generating income so that I can be in business. On the other end, the
business isn't sustainable. Sorry to cut you if it's not profitable. That's just the bottom line. Period.
And my philosophy is the better that I do and the more leverage that I create, I give that all to my clients. Mm-hmm. Like it's all about them. Like I have all these titles. Like they're not even all on my card. But the reality is they all help me, whether, it's, I created the new homes division for our company, right? So my passion is building, and I believe that in order to be sustainable, you need to build, right? And it's also 40% of what everybody wants in the country is new first. Mm-hmm. And in LA, you don't have a lot of choices, so it's usually newer, right? So that's an important factor, and then like, went down the road, well, I'm a luxury property specialist, or in this case, I'm actually the luxury property director among 14 for our company. So what does that matter? It only matters that I have a leadership role and it connects me to all these other agents globally, and so locally, nationally, globally, who do what I do, which is luxury properties.
Yep.
And so the title gives me leverage for my clients who have luxury properties, right? I'm a global ambassador, one of about 30 something globally for our company.
Yep.
What does that mean? It means that I'm no longer looking at this being a small fish pond. It's the whole globe. It's all the oceans. It's everywhere. And when I see what's happening now is the American dream for so many years was buying real estate in America. That was the dream. Look at all these houses out here. Los Angeles is a single family haven, created to attract all these people from all over the globe to come here. And now, at least among those who are more affluent, or maybe they already own a few homes, they're starting to have a new dream. And the new dream is global real estate ownership. And the reason why, if you really ask me why, it's because there's actually other countries that living there is now the dream, which is more affordable, nicer, better architecture, beyond the architecture, those economies, special economies across the globe, in countries that have less taxes and less red tape. They're also places where the economy is growing faster than here in America. And so that means the appreciation or the return on investment is now better overseas in many places. Like all these things, the world's changed. So everything you do in real estate is about leveraging and having strategies so that you can, conquer the world for your clients.
Yep.
And with them. And the last thing I would say about all of that is when you focus on your clients from a place of service, that you're growing your business in such a way that you can do all these things, it puts you in a position of, you focus on them, their lives get better, you elevate their lives, and the best thing about real estate is if you focus on other people and you do a great job, our lives are elevated. We're just along for the ride. Mm-hmm.
Create enough value for others, and the money and the rewards and all that are just a natural byproduct.
I'll say this to you. When I listen to you describe that, all the titles and all the different things and how it's really client related. And then you start digging into what each of these things mean and why. And with the passion along with it, I find myself being sold, okay, to want Markus to be my realtor. We sit with a lot of people, and I don't say that to a lot of people. I may not have said it before, but that's what I felt. And one of the things that we really try to do with the podcast too is to make accessible tools that everyone can use. And so if you're new in real estate, this is an attitude that, so you've got gratitude, which I think is a little like, it could be seen as frou-frou or whatever, but then immediately we got into the hard work, because you're the luxury property director, you're the global ambassador. These are things that are earned. And as you earn them, you're learning more and more. I want to hear more, as a client about like, well, wait a minute, which economies are doing better? And what, and now I might just want you to sell, I might want you to put me in the house that's right down here, the single family haven, as you called it. I might want you to sell that house for me. And I'm really interested, like, okay, so what economies are doing better, and how does this work, and what's the cost of living over there, and how does that what
really
are my
translate?
Options?
Yep.
Yeah, and that I think is being at the cutting edge of what is going on now. Can you put into words or actions, like if you're giving somebody advice, so now you're mentoring someone and they have some real estate experience, they're doing pretty well. What do you tell them to do to distinguish themselves from that massive pack?
Well, honestly, first and foremost, be authentic to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that wasn't what you were looking for in the answer, but that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody and anybody can be great in real estate if they understand that authenticity is power.
Mm-hmm.
That they understand that if they're being who they are, they're always going to have their audience. I'm not after anybody's something else. I'm looking to create authentic relationships with people. And I'm looking to help them. It feels good. Given you shall receive.
And it's funny, I write down passion and authenticity at the bottom there. Like,
I mean, you might say, "Oh, that's not the answer you're looking for," but I'm looking for whatever the answer is.
It's one of the important answers, in my opinion.
I'm always asking people, what is their superpower?
I love that question.
Yeah.
I ask that question all the time.
And that goes hand in hand with authentic. I mean, that is,
of course,
right?
And I'm not afraid to tell a client, for example, like, actually, I don't have great vision of take this wall down, or I have to see it. I don't understand it until it's, but there are other pieces of it that really are my superpower. And I can bring this person in that can really figure out how to maximize space planning. And I know it when I see it for sure, but that vision is not mine. So if you're an interior decorator, if you have architecture experience or building experience, these are things that you're always going to be. You're going to be so much more productive when you're working in an area that you love, that you might as well stick with your strengths.
It's always what I say is authenticity goes so hand in hand with consistency. For me, that to me is the key to success, because it doesn't happen overnight. No matter how talented you are, whatever you do, you've got to sort of play the long game with consistency. And if you're doing it in an authentic way, then you're far more likely to be consistent and enjoy the process. Because at the end of the day, I know, Mark, if you don't enjoy the process, then what are you doing it for? Life is way too short and valuable, and time is too. So why? That's a choice, and that's a choice make with intention and make purposefully. And then when I'm coming back to what Markus said earlier too, it's gratitude is it's the law of attraction. If you're going to be grateful, if you're doing something you love, you're going to get much better at it as a result. People are going to want to gravitate toward you, because who wants to be around a miserable person that's negative and cynical? I mean, come on.
They have an audience too.
Yes.
They do.
Right.
I watch it. That's why I say anybody can do real estate if you're willing to work hard enough. But understand, I'm very clear that authenticity is my brand. See what I mean? That's my brand. St. James Canter, it's authenticity. It's about being of service to others and about providing something extraordinary. Because a long time ago, good became not good enough. Did you notice that? Like that was like maybe 15 years ago. And then, so it used to be good, used to be a good thing, but it's not anymore. And so most people don't even try, in my opinion. They're not even trying to be good. Like I just go, I want to be extraordinary. That's my goal every day. I want to be extraordinary. And I'm sitting here because you guys are extraordinary people. Like I was so grateful and also like excited about the idea of speaking with you because you're not ordinary. What you're doing is extraordinary. The being, and the mindset that you guys have is
we appreciate
very alluring.
that. Oh,
very
yeah,
alluring.
thank you. And I always come back. Thank you for that. Like, who wants to be normal? Who said it to us the other day? Sorry, when we were in Vegas, right? What was the term they used? You guys are quirky.
Yeah, quirky.
That's it. And we're like, I love quirky. I'll take quirky. Who wants to be
different? Whatever you, however you can call me weird or strange. I'll take that too.
That's an internal joke. Like we're quirky. All right, we're quirky. What did he say? You two are quirky, but they're quirky and opposite. Or what did he say? Like ways, whatever.
Yes.
And I say the same about you. I'm not sure I would have used the word quirky, but authentic, original, like exceptional, like. Normal, like in society, I don't need to tell. I'm curious, like, want you to be normalized.
Look at how many people are on the planet. I mean, watch my son. He's 13, and because he's so exceptional, and he's so smart. And I came home once, and I said, I want to talk to you, and he was half asleep, and I said, I want to talk to you because I had this download. I had this like epiphany that I realized because I'm very empathic. All right. In other words, it's one of my superpowers is vision, empathy, gratitude. Like, but
we talk about it all the time.
I'd say my superpowers is vision, strategies, and empathy. Mm-hmm. Right. I'd put those three together. The vision allows me to see what other people don't see. Yep. Strategy allows me to achieve the goal by already seeing the path that will get there. So that comes from experience, but it also comes from like feeling, like you just know. Feelings are also knowing. Like sometimes you just know.
Sure.
And then empathy, that works really, really well for me because when someone walks in, there's two things I can do very well. One, if I'm dealing with my client, I immediately know when they're in their right home. If it's a buyer, if they're a seller, I really understand what it is that they're not telling me that they need to be done. Mm-hmm. It's really important.
Very.
Because people don't always tell you what they need, but if you can feel it and you know it, you can provide a more extraordinary service level, right? So I'm compassionate into the experience that clients need.
Having your eyes wide open, as crazy as quirky as this
awakening,
as quirky as this will sound, some people will say they have great parking karma. I'm one of them.
I am one of them too, man.
And you know what?
I always get parking.
Part of it is just paying a little more attention than somebody else. Like you see, that one block ahead where that person's just getting into their car, and I think there's some real world stuff behind the parking karma.
Definitely.
And then also focusing on the wins, not the losses. So parking karma doesn't mean I find a parking spot every single time. But when I do, I'm like, there you go. And if I don't, I'm not mad about it. It's fine. I'll walk the extra few blocks. It didn't happen this time. Because I feel like that blocks that blocks the ability to like find it when it's there. And I'm not even saying that it's spiritual, obviously, right? It's like
no, Paul, it
low
can't
on
be spiritual.
It's low on the totem pole of the parking karma.
Sure.
But doing things that it's a part of authenticity too, is doing things that are in alignment of who you are. So it's like one of the things that I'll do is, I'll pick up the piece of trash in the men's room that I didn't drop while no one's looking, and I'm definitely not getting any extra credit for it. It's kind of gross or whatever, but I'm not even doing that for the people that have to clean up. I view that now as just doing it for myself. I'm doing it for myself because I want to see myself as the person that does that extra mile. And that just opens the path for the extra mile.
Yeah, like on the morning walk, picking up nails in the street.
Yeah.
I do that every day.
There are other people on their morning walk that put nails down on the street.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me shift for a minute. You talked about owning real estate and coming back to empathy, like put yourself in the other person's shoes. So when you've bought and sold real estate, then you can be much more empathetic with your buyers and sellers, right? What advice do you give those that are starting in real estate, that are new in real estate, or maybe aren't so new but do not own real estate? So how does give us your perspective there?
And I understand it's not like an easy thing to just own real estate. I mean, it definitely,
Especially in LA.
especially in LA.
Right.
But owning real estate is very important.
And I agree completely. So I want to hear how you suggest that one go about that.
The same thing I would tell any first-time buyer or just buyers in general is that there is really one time to buy real estate: when you can. It is the absolute truth. It's not what market it is. It's when you can buy, and ideally don't sell, or sell to grow.
Right.
I tease about it and I say, because we do a wealth building, yeah, we can plug our own podcast. We do a wealth building podcast called Radical Wealth Plan. And I tease about it and say that, the single best time to buy real estate is, a long time ago. Pick like 10 years ago. The best time to buy is 10 years ago.
80 years ago.
Yeah, right, exactly. And the second best time to buy is now. And I can honestly say that someone that I knew from yoga, so I'm in the locker room, and the guy saw, oh, I know you're in real estate, da 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 da, and I was getting ready to buy this piece of property, and my accountant told me, now's not a good time, or don't. My accountant told me not to buy it, and I said, well, okay, why is that? He said, well, now's not a good time, and I said, okay, did your accountant look at the deal? And he said, no, my accountant didn't look at the deal. I go, I can tell you right now, without me looking at the deal, that's bad advice. I can tell you sitting right here, I don't have to look at the deal. That's terrible advice. He goes, oh, you mean I should buy it? How would you know? I'm like, oh, I don't know. But neither does your accountant.
That's right.
Because the number of people that buy, how many terrible buys did people make when real estate was great? I mean, we just were trying to help an agent, who had an irate seller who bought at the absolute top of the market, a done house, put a bunch more money into it, redoing things that were already done.
Yeah.
And now they want out, and they want out to get all their money back and maybe some more. And it's just not happening.
No.
And they believe they're justified in wanting that because they invested that amount, and as if that has any relevance on the value of the home.
But that's a perfect example of, somebody making a bad buy for them.
Yes.
They made a bad buy for them at a great time. On the other hand, how many people make great buys when the market isn't good? Or
what happens? Everyone's an expert in real estate. I mean, we love it. It's great being a real estate agent because you're the center of every conversation at every event. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to know about real estate, which is great. By the way, if you're a new agent, you should be talking real estate all the time. That's all you should do, talk real estate. Everyone wants to talk it anyway. All right. But the thing is, their friends, their accountant, all these people have these opinions about real estate. They should hire an experienced real estate agent and listen and then make their own judgment and make sure that they're also doing their gratitude and make sure that they're also doing what it takes to be able to listen to what's right for you. Like, I want my clients to be able to make sound choices, not based on fear, but based on what's going to elevate and excite them in their life. And buying real estate is exciting. And anything exciting, the opposite in the world of duality, going back there, is fear. So, when we're dealing with clients, we're dealing with, I know there's fear in even the most experienced people.
Oh, for sure.
There's
With me,
fear.
yeah. I mean, the number of houses and investment properties that I had bought and sold and bought and held when I bought my house 1 second before the market crashed. I paid $2.1 million for this house in Santa Monica, a minute before the market crashed, and 6 months later, it was worth $1.6 million. And if you think that I lost, 25% of my value, I didn't, because being conservative, I put $500,000 down. I lost everything. The 2.1, I had the $1.6 million loan, $500,000 down, and the house, 6 months later was worth $1.6 million. Now, I bought a dump, believe it or not, for that amount of money. I bought a dump in Santa Monica that had a great view, and I had the money set aside to fix it. And I was scared to death. As much real estate as I've bought and sold, and I ran around to my realtor friends.
Yes.
Many of them who were working for me, and I was like, I've got this money set aside to build. Am I just throwing like bad, good money on top of bad? Should I just hold the thing? And they're like, and they all said the same thing to me, which is what I would have said to them. But sometimes you need somebody to say it to you. They're like, are you flipping this house, or is this where you're going to live? I'm like, no, It's where I'm going to live. And they're like, don't worry about it. Pour the money right into it. It's fine. And then
if you have the money and you're doing it for yourself, and you're also looking at what the future values are going to be, and you're not like insane like this other person who bought at the top of the market, put in more money than because it was for their own ego or for their own self, so to speak. I don't mean bad word ego. I mean the self. They did it for themselves. Yeah. And then, of course, right now they want to sell it. That's not going to happen. That was not a good strategy. But in your case, one thing, because I come from a building background and design background, is if you're doing nice work, and this is Los Angeles, you always want to buy a property that's unique, that has something, because LA is about unique properties.
Yep.
That's my specific niche. It's like,
I love it.
Not cookie cutter.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you come to LA, the buyer here wants that special property that resonates to their personal lifestyle.
Yep.
You buy that, and you make it even better within the parameters of the future. Yeah, you're going to sell it. You're going to actually sell it quickly, and any market, it'll be the one that sells.
Yep.
And I have like 30 questions, but I'll just start with one.
Sure.
One of the things we experience a lot right now is you've got the overpriced listing. You just know that it's just not going to sell at this price, and there could be that one lightning strike. How do you, using gratitude and positivity and love and all these things, do you try and move that person, or do you find out, hey, they're stuck at at a price that's not going to happen, I'm going to pass? What do you do?
And then before you answer that, so there's two layers in my mind, or at least two. There's probably many more. How do you manage that expectation when you're when you're taking the listing or striving to take the listing, and then how do you manage that expectation after you've taken the listing and you're looking for some sort of price reduction?
Wow, that is the single hardest question you can ask any agent right now. I see real estate like surfing. I'm a Los Angelino. Okay, there's days where you go out on the surfboard and you're out there and there's no waves, but you can feel they're coming, and they're coming. They're always going to come. So what inexperienced realtors will do in this analogy is they'll wait. They'll just sit there. They're like, the waves are coming, maybe. But what they're not doing is they're not ready to paddle. They're not ready to actually be in momentum when the wave comes. Right? So if you want to hit a wave and you want to surf it, you've got to not only be willing to wait for it, but you need to be being proactive, and you got to be ready for it, and you got to make sure you don't miss it. We went into 7 escrows in the last 14 days.
Wow.
Because there was a wave that came.
It was coming.
It was coming for a long time, but we never stopped. We never gave up. We never said, oh, this is never going to happen, or this is not sellable. So the point I'm making is you have to always be moving and creating momentum, changing things up. One property, I'm like, well, it dawned on me, this property right now, everything's not affordable. Well, what if this particular property has a 3rd bedroom that's on a lower level that has a separate entrance? I'm like, somebody could actually live very well in a 2-bedroom and rent the bottom. So I'm shifting the narrative on how to reach and strategize a different buyer. So you got to constantly be doing that, to see who is the buyer out there who will, buy. Right now, there are also properties that no matter what you do, they're just not gonna, you're gonna have to wait it out. So you're talking, you know, like I've got a property that is arguably sellable and priced really well. And I had 2 offers on it just in the last couple of days, and both of them were just a little too low. So the conversation with that seller who's ready is, well, the one that came in higher is waiting to find out if they're getting a bonus next week. And she's like, why don't we just take it now? I said, because if they're really a buyer and they come back more than once to this property, they're going to buy it next week. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because if we try to go back to them and just not let them finish their confidence building part of the buyer's deal, then we may just get involved and lose our momentum. Again, we're creating a way, you know, there's waves coming, that's a wave, but we need to have momentum, and we'll lose our momentum. So you also have to be patient. Right now, you got to be patient. So you got to talk to your clients and just say, patience, look what happened. Deals are getting done. Sometimes harder than others, sometimes take longer than others, but they're getting done. And this is what we do to make sure that we don't miss the wave when it comes.
Yeah, and I think I would think, as you say, like patiently proactive, like patient, and it gets back to like pray and move your feet, right? So be patient and at the same time position yourself proactively such that when that opportunity is there, you're able to seize that opportunity.
But again, sort of back to our listeners. So where do you get your business, and how do you source more business?
So number one, when I started 19 years ago, I was like the open house guy for our team, you know, for our brand. I did a lot of open houses. I still believe in open houses. It's where you get to talk and be a realtor, right? You're out there, people are coming in, they're buyers, you're a realtor. So whether you're seasoned or whether you're new, this is still very important. Our typical buyer now is like, we're 3, 4, 5 times with every buyer, all of our clients. Like typically it's people coming back, building a business where we've built trust and loyalty, which is hard to have for some reason these days. And we still have a very good trust and loyalty with our clients.
So that's largely repeat business.
Repeat.
Yeah.
How do you stay in touch with them?
Let me say our business is about 95% referral or repeat.
Wow.
So I believe in working with people. You know, there's the philosophy, like you can go out to the nightclub and look for your soulmate, right? Or you can go to one of your dear friends who has a similar mindset to one of their dinner parties and look for a soulmate there. Which one do you want? I want to work with the people who are going to be like-minded. I more than ever. So, you know, we do a very good job in keeping our relationships through, you know, I love to go to lunch with clients. I love to take them out for their birthday. You know, they know what we're selling. We try not to overdo it, but they're getting our postcards, they're getting our e-cards, they're part of lists. So we do business in Los Angeles and Southern California and out in the desert in the Coachella Valley. So like in now overseas. So when you look at that, they want to see it. It's like real estate porn. So like, you show them the great, beautiful properties that you're selling, and you build on all those successes.
Is there any proactive additional people you're adding to your database outside of the repeat referral piece?
Yes, but we could do that better.
Okay.
We could do that better.
But do you want to do that better? I mean,
I do, but again, I want to work with like-minded people. What I've learned over the years is, like, I passed on a referral, which is even harder to pass on because you don't ever want to, pass when someone's referring business. You want them to feel like they can always count on you. But yeah. I passed on a potential client who owned a property and 2 adjoining, so it was 3 listings, and I spent 3.5 hours with them at their home, in which we went around in circles and circles and circles. And what I really empathically understood and through intellectually understood is that she doesn't want to sell. She doesn't want to sell. She has to sell, but emotionally she doesn't want to. And I'm very good at dealing with those kind of clients. But what I've come to learn is that if I'm going to help people, shouldn't I work with the 9 other people who are willing to collaborate with me, work with me, trust me, to be in communication with me, and strategize together on how we're going to do this really powerfully in the same amount of time that it would take me just to sell the one person who doesn't want to do it, and I want to help her. I really do, and I've done it. I've done it like 50 to 100 times.
Yep.
I'm just at a different level now where I want to help people. I want to make a difference. I want to have a bigger impact, and I have to think differently. I do think differently now.
Yeah. We talk about it all the time, work with the willing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
I think real estate's a collaborative sport. I think that the best do it as a collaborative, not only with their clients, but they also do with the other agents and the owners and the brokerages and everybody.
It's a lot smarter and a lot more fun, both, when you work in collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Period. I mean, everyone feels rewarded, recognized, valued. You make better decisions because we all have blind spots, right? None of us is as smart as all of us. And as a result of all that, it's a lot more fun if you're working with the people that you enjoy being around.
It should be fun.
Yep.
Okay, it's not gonna be fun every day, but it should be fun. Real estate is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they make TV shows about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. Okay.
Who are, and you don't have to name the people, but like if you were to think about a couple of agents that you really admire and that you maybe look up to, whether it's now or earlier in your career, like what were some of the things that you valued in them? What are some of the things you respected?
I started this business with Christy St. James. And Christy St. James is one of the most talented real estate agents in this entire business. I know that by the fact that at least 50 times I've had other agents come up to me and say, oh my gosh, you work with Christy? I did my first deal with Christy. Oh my gosh, you work with Christy. She's the best realtor. She's the nicest realtor. She's the most beautiful realtor I've ever met. And so I started with somebody as a partner. All right, I brought my talents. She already was a top producer. What I saw about her, and to this very day, is there's just no ego with her. She's seamless. She's powerful. She's so like connected to the deal and the art of how the deal is happening. You don't even know why you said yes. And she got everything for her client that she wanted, but everyone else just kept saying yes. And people ended the deal, and her clients did so great. And guess what? Everyone's still happy, and everyone's ending the deal with kumbaya and high fives. And so it was her kind of gentle, humble, hardworking, at service approach that was, I came into the business working with her. And so that was a great person to start with.
And interesting, because my question was different but aimed at the same thing. The question I had was like, what advice would you give to the younger version of yourself? But now that you've given this great answer, now I'm a new realtor in the business, and I look around, I see some great realtor. How do I convince that great realtor to be in business with me? Christy St. James must have had, based on what you're telling me, lots of people that she could have worked with, and yet she decided to work with you.
Yeah.
How does that happen? How do you I'm a new realtor. I'm a new realtor. Maybe I want to work with you. How do I get that to happen?
Well, look, if somebody wants to work with me, what I would be looking for is what's their superpower. I'm always looking at like, what do you do so well? And then do that so well that you stand out. Because like I did design and build. I did storytelling. I was a director, writer, a production designer at one time. So I just brought my talents into what I do, and that made me stand out. And it was authentic, and it's what I love to do. So I'm going to be better at it if I love to do it. So I really, would wish upon anybody coming into this business to, maybe find a mentor who inspires you, but also like bring your superpower to it. Like, understand who your people are. We watch, you guys definitely see it every day. And I've seen it many, many times working with agents who can't speak English, agents who are flat out assholes, egomaniacs, nice people, all different kinds of people. people you would never think would be successful, but they're successful. And they're successful because they tapped into what it is that they are and attracted those people. You know, like, you know, I had a client, I remember, he was like very strong ego. And I consider myself like a velvet hammer. That's my style. You never see that I'm using that hammer. It's so smooth, but it's always coming from a good place, and it's only used as it's needed. And therefore, you know, the deals are done and people are kumbaya and happy and smiling, and you've made, you know, mutual friends that are going to come back around later. So people should come in and bring their talent to it. Find out what they did or their previous career, or if they didn't have a previous career, were they played sports, you know, were they lacrosse, were they swimmers, and then start going and hanging out with those people and saying, I'm so excited. I'm working at Keller Williams or whatever company they're at, and saying, I'm doing real estate and look at all these cool properties that I'm seeing. And, oh, by the way, are you looking to buy or sell? Throw that in there. If everything's the word, all right, literally you create worlds with what you say. Worlds.
I like that.
That's how important the word is. From out of darkness, God said, let there be light. All right, whether you believe in God or not, or whatever that's not what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I believe in that concept.
Yeah, it's like your aura.
It's your world.
Yeah.
And so bring that to it and use your words powerfully.
That is such a powerful message. One of the things that it's been a practice of mine for a long time, and I had to be taught that, so that even when joking or saying something self-deprecating or whatever, one of my great mentors was like, don't ever let that come out of your mouth. I remember I was so engaged in conversation with this wonderful woman in Austin, Texas, and we were on our way to meet the CEO, and we were both friends with him, and we were walking and talking, and then finally she's like, one of us was like, where are we? And I'm like, I don't know. I was following you, and she's like, you're following me, I'm following you,
Right.
and it was a very funny moment. We actually then had to
figure out where you were.
we landed at the UT Stadium. That's how we knew we were completely not where we were supposed to be. Looked up and there's UT Stadium.
You're like, oh.
And we went back, and I made some joke about the blind leading the blind or something like it's just some very innocent joke, and Mark Willis, who was the CEO at the time, and I considered to be a great mentor, was like, don't ever let that, don't ever, he literally pulled me aside. He's like, I want to tell you something. I go, yeah, what's that? He goes, don't ever say that. You're an amazing leader. Don't joke about it. You think it's funny that you and Marion walked around and you were having a great time.
Yeah, it was the power of your the whole conversation wasn't about the blind leading the blind. The conversation was about we were in our own world connecting as human beings, and how great
that's
was
so
that.
Amazing. Yeah, it's so amazing that you guys were, and in the meantime, I just thought it was funny,
Right.
I mean, and just even those little things. Negative words are so toxic.
Yes.
And then, and then that gets multiplied when you have, like your son, using negative words with a kid. And sometimes you lose your temper as a parent.
Yeah.
And just some of the most powerful words come after, it's I am, right? I am is just known in almost every language to be so powerful. I am, I am that is a Sanskrit, is a Sanskrit.
Yes. I am the great I am.
I am. And so you're as a parent, you could say, right, if my daughter, who's now 21, was being a brat at the moment, which certainly there are moments of that. You are a brat. That is incredibly toxic.
Yeah. You're creating it.
While saying you are being a brat, meaning it's a momentary thing, is that maybe you shouldn't, maybe there's a better thing to say than that, but all you have to do is throw in the being. And if you get angry enough at yourself, like, I'm such an idiot. I left my favorite shirt, one of my favorite shirts. I left it at the Sweet Green right before. And it's one of these things that I'll do kind of over and over again, and I rarely have any negative self-talk. In fact, I didn't have any about that. I hope Farrah's found it.
Farrah's in shape these days.
Yeah, right. Running after myself. But if I wanted to do it, if I really felt the need to, I'd be like, I was being such a knucklehead instead of like, I'm a knucklehead. No. That's good. There's a permanence to that, but the power of words.
Let me shift to something that I'm curious about. So you have your son, 13 years old. His name is
Max.
That's what I thought. Yep.
Max.
You got it. How do you? Because I know how intentional and purposeful you are, and how important your relationship and love is for Maxim. How do you think about your career, which you're also really passionate about, balance with being a parent and a dad?
Having a child definitely has made me much more mindful of the time I spend with him.
Absolutely.
That time is extremely important to me, and especially up until this time, because I knew one day he'd become more independent, which he is becoming. We're going to go to Coachella next week.
Wow.
So his first big concert, and
Very
with
cool.
Dad and another one of his friends, which is great. But I think, you have to be really intentional with, the time you have and make time. And one of the things, I'll give this to Tom Ferry, who's a friend. Years ago, I was coached with him and we've stayed friends all these years. He said, you need to schedule your time that you're not working. And that was honestly the most powerful thing I got from coaching with Tom Ferry at that time, which is schedule my time that I don't work.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of work going on, but I schedule in advance time so that we can have incredible moments, and then you create moments, because I think parenthood and just in general good relationships are based on just taking the moment that you have and making it special, which is again very intentional. I believe that simplicity and simple words can go much further than getting too heady and intellectual. And I also believe that children remind us of the game. Remember, I said I'm writing a book, and it's about the mastery of the game. The game that we're playing is a child's game, not an adult's game, not a game where you're trying to manipulate and achieve something through being, good at a game. Versus childs play with passion. They play authentically. They play, and make something out of nothing.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's the power of
Much
the game
more
that
simplistic.
I'm referring to. And to me, everything is about how do we keep that game in us so that that we're present. It's one of the things, if you're not present, things are going by you, the opportunities are lost. And if you're doing a deal, if you're not present and you're not doing, again, like I said, a holistic approach of mind, body, and spirit, and you're not working out, you're not taking the walks, you're not doing the prayer or the meditation. I added earlier in this year, when things were getting very negative around me, for the very first, well, not the first time, but in many years I hadn't done affirmations, and I added affirmations.
You got to hear my affirmations. People can't believe.
I can't wait to hear your affirmations, because
Right.
affirmations was one of the things that got me to where I am right now this year, because it was getting heavy out there, and it was getting toxic around all of us. And the affirmations, they work. It's like gratitude and affirmations. So anytime that I start hearing the chatter negative in my head, which is going to be there, but when I start hearing it loudly, I'm immediately doing affirmations. You can do it, and you can do it when you go to sleep. You can do it first thing in the morning. You can do it while you're driving your car to a showing, which I do.
Love it. I got to say this last point, coming back to how much we learn from our kids, and I have my 10-year-old Max, and it's like what you just said. So much of the problems, the issues, the polarization of our world and our country are all learned.
Oh, absolutely.
They're all learned. So you look at kids, who hopefully have not learned that yet. And it just reminds you that that's just all conditioning that society has created. So there's so much to learn from our kids. Sorry, it's such a fresh reminder.
Like right now, what is really part of my thinking is, number one, is awakening, like becoming awake to who you are. Take on the mindset that you chose to be here. Take on the mindset that you're an angel that came into a duality world to play, right? A game of awakening.
I finally listened to somebody who explained Jungian philosophy well enough for me to actually understand it. It was the pushing down the thoughts that scare us, that we have a full range of thoughts. And if you go to church or you go to synagogue or whatever, and they tell you, don't do this and don't do that, and then you have a thought about, even a great rabbi or great priest would say, okay, well, you shouldn't kill. We know that, okay? But then you get so angry in a moment, you think, I'd just like to kill that person, and we just know that's a terrible thought.
Oh my gosh.
So instead of pushing that thought down, just go like, wow, that's interesting. Like, I actually got so angry that like this crossed my mind, and then that frees you into actually pushing all the thoughts down that you're afraid to have. It's okay to have the thought, and I think even a great priest or rabbi would say, first thought, second thought, which is my AA quote. You can't control the first thought. You have some control over the second thought. Is to push these things down. If you don't push them down, just let them be in your mind. It doesn't mean you're actually going to get any step closer to killing someone. In a Jungian philosophy, you would be getting closer to killing somebody if you keep pushing it down, as opposed to saying like, So playing that game or that awakening could be, embracing all of the things. And all of the things are the positives and the negatives and the like, while I'm having a negative chatter, isn't that interesting? Let me think, what's that about? But I do think affirmations are great.
Affirmations are, affirmations have been a godsend for me this year. I didn't really felt that I needed affirmations, and now I realize how powerful and important they are, because your mind is really tuned to negativity.
It can be.
The majority of the default brain is fear-based. It's survival-based. You're surviving by, if I go to that edge right there and I didn't have something stopping me, I would just walk over it. So it's survival based. And so therefore your mindset is to notice, but not to focus on those negative thoughts. And affirmations, it loads up the brain at that time with more positive. So it's kind of like out with the negative, in with the positive, positive, positive. I always want more positive coming in my mind than the negative.
You can't hold gratitude and hatred at the same time, and you can't hold, so that's where the positivity, the affirmations, really.
Markus is saying it's like,
it helps you along. I had
it's like what you focus on expands. I mean, it's very,
what resists persists.
Yeah.
All those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a very funny exchange with a therapist that I was seeing a long time ago. I can't remember the name of the show. It wasn't The Tutors, but The Tutors was I enjoyed The Tutors a lot. It was very violent, and it was another one like that. I can't remember. And I remember going into I never have nightmares. I've been having nightmares, and she said, well, what are you doing before you go to bed? And I was like, I've been watching The Tutors. It wasn't The Tutors, whatever it was, I've been watching the whatever. And she's like,
negative
are you
in,
serious?
Negative out.
Before you go to bed? I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, no wonder you're having nightmares. I'm like, no wonder I'm having nightmares. It's now 10 years later. And, and I've talked about it so much, but finally started doing it. I'm listening to the same exact, abundance meditation. It's not meant for sleep, by the way. It's Bob Proctor on abundance. He even says, don't go to sleep or whatever, but I do. And I've listened to it, nearly every night for 6 or 9 months. And it's just filling your brain. It's only 20 minutes long and I have it on, so it will shut off, not go the whole night, and I almost never hear the end of it, because it's lulled to sleep. And I've heard the same thing for 6 or somewhere between 6 and 9 months.
That's amazing.
It's a way to fill your brain with positivity. And I haven't listened to a lot of, there's another guy, a brain scientist, Dr. Amen, I think it's Amon. I've listened to some of his stuff. I've listened to enough of it that he's very science-based, and he'll take somebody who's really negative and they'll do like an MRI, and then they do somebody that's very positive, and it's like, or a PET scan where the thing lights up, different parts of the brain light up, and people are just, that you can actually rewire your brain with an activity like that.
Amazing.
Yeah. Positive in, positive out. What else can you say?
There
That's
you
what
go.
you're talking about.
Shall we do fire round?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Bring it on, guys.
Okay. So, and these the questions are really meant to be, we ask, you can answer the first thing that comes to your mind. Any one of these questions, we could go on and on, but that wouldn't be the fire round.
Right.
So why don't you start us off for a change?
What do you most admire in others?
Generosity.
What's an insult you've received that you're proud of?
I was about to say what I'm not proud of. Well, I'm going to say this. So what is an insult that I've received that I'm proud of? I'm not going to say I'm proud of it, but I've been, I heard a few times at the beginning of this year that I'm selfish. And I'm not proud of that. I realized that I was becoming self-absorbed at that time. And so I'm just grateful that I heard it enough times at that point to realize that, it was time for positive affirmations. I just was I was going inward. So not proud of it, but I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, and kudos to you for being self-aware and willing to do something about it. So that says a lot.
Thank you.
When and where are you happiest?
I'm happiest out in nature, ideally traveling the world someplace I've never been before. I believe that when you are in a new space, it opens you up and it's all new possibilities.
What's a talent you'd most like to have?
I love to be super organized.
What do you consider to be your greatest achievement?
My greatest achievement was the creation of our son. That one really touches me.
If you went on a long hike, there's great hikes in LA. You go on a hike and it's steep grade. You're really chugging along to get up there. You get to the very top of that hill and look down and you see your family and you see your colleagues and you see your whole community and you shout one thing. What would you shout?
I love you guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, phenomenal, brother.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, very
for,
inspiring.
Taking the time with us. Really.
This was a lot of fun. Again,
Yeah.
I'm grateful to be here. You guys really inspire me. So,
Oh, thank you.
Likewise.
Like,
all right,
All right,
guys.
thank you
brother.
very
Yeah.
much.